everyone. Hello, everyone. I welcome you to another episode, another session of Peculiar Youth on Eyes of Africa TV. My name is Tosin Adeyemi, and with me today is a very special guest, a minister, a woman of God, a woman of virtue, by name Reverend Laurie Idahosa. You're welcome, Ma. It's nice, really nice to have you on
Thank
the
you.
program.
Thank you.
Yes,
It's good to be on your show.
yeah. Thanks so much for honoring this invite.
Thank you.
Um, for everyone, today we'll be discussing the issues to discuss during courtship. What are the things to be discussed during courtship and not after marriage? There are some issues that need to be settled while courting. And I won't be the one to take us through that journey. We'll be doing it together with Reverend Laurie. We should know that the purpose of courtship is getting to know one another through a well-nurtured relationship, exposure, and communication in order to prove the proposed marriage conventions within the context of time. Yeah, time is an asset to any relationship. So the focus of courting should not be on the flesh or mere physical attractiveness. You must get to know the person and not the person's body. Yeah, I would be handing over to my guests who will be taking us through what. Okay, let me start with what exactly is courtship. What does it mean to be courting? The process of courtship, ma. Can you please shed more light on that?
Sure. So, first of all, good afternoon. It's good to see you. I'm excited to be on your program this afternoon. And I believe it's going to be exciting because I think this is a topic that interests a lot of us. So,
Yeah,
what's courtship all about? Now, the way I see it is that while you're dating somebody, the purpose of dating is it's a fact-finding mission. It's the
yeah,
time that you're really discovering your compatibility. You're discovering your long-term compatibility. There's differences. There's short-term compatibility and there's long-term compatibility. And so I believe that dating is the time that you discover whether which category you fit into. Is this somebody that you can take for the long haul, or is this something that's going to be a short-lived, flash in the pan kind of fun, and I'm in and out kind of thing? Courtship isn't all about you know sexual compatibility. It's more about emotional compatibility, spiritual compatibility, religious compatibility, financial compatibility. It's kind of looking at all the issues and saying, you know what, is this somebody that do our do our values match? Do our ideas about these various areas match? Do we can I live with their idea, their plan for whatever the case may be, having children or whatever it is. So it's a discussion that you have. It's courtship is basically a time to really discuss and to get to know one another, to build trust, and to really decide if this person is somebody that you can put into the box of a long-term option, or if it's somebody that's just a going to be kind of in the friend zone.
thank you so much for that. While you were explaining, you mentioned dating and you also mentioned courtship. Is there any difference between or they're different?
I think that a lot of it is just semantics. People believe in dating. Some people believe in courtship. Some people believe that you should be engaged before you even start talking to show you're serious. Everybody has a different perspective on it. And truthfully, if we're going to go from a purely scriptural basis, there's no pattern in the Bible for dating. So it's kind of really, it's up to you. How do you define it? But in my own personal opinion, I believe that people should start in a good friendship before they take it romantic. I believe that once you start going the romantic side, you lose something. You lose there's an innocence that you have in your friendship. There's a purity of conversation just interest, and there's like this whole thing that goes on before you become romantic. And so I believe that a couple should really focus strongly on building a friendship before they take it into the romantic side. So courtship, dating, all those words are kind of interchangeable depending on the person. But I think for today, we're talking about a couple that is interested in one another and would like it to possibly head towards marriage. So we'll just kind of leave it there so that we're not putting a defined word on it, because it's kind of all over the place in people's minds. And I wouldn't want to mess up somebody else's thought on what it's actually called.
Okay. All right. So now when we have two people who are courting, and to have a good and a perfect and a successful marriage, let me use the word successful, not perfect. To have a successful marriage, during the process of courtship, there are some things, there are some issues that need to be discussed. There are some issues that need to be settled. So please, can you please tell us what are those things that you need to settle while courting before going into marriage?
Wow, there's so many. But as I said earlier, it's a fact-finding mission. And so a lot of times when you're in a fact-finding mission, as you open up one, you begin to find another, and you begin to find another, and it evolves into really beginning to be able to understand holistically who is this person that you're getting into a relationship with. So there's some big ones. Some big ones are family. If you talk about several different aspects of family. One is, what kind of family do you want to have? What's your ideal family look like? How many children do you want to have? Do you even want to have children? Because there's a lot of relationship nowadays where the people are like, look, I've already had my kids. I don't want to have any more. And it might be a difference of dreams, and it would show that you're not compatible, or maybe that you are. So I would say family is a really big one. What type of family, what's your ideal family look like? What kind of family do you have now, as far as, do you have any children? How are you raising those children? Who has custody over those children? Will they be living with us? Are you raising your nieces, your nephews? How close are you to your siblings? What role will your siblings have in our marriage? What role will your parents have in our marriage? How committed are you in your family relationship as far as your parents? Do you want us to live with your parents? Do you want us to live independently? Maybe it's Sunday, like in a lot of houses, every Sunday the family comes together. Is that what you want to do? Is that what you do in your family? Are you okay with that? And if you are, is that something where you be okay coming to be a part of my family on Sundays? How close do you expect me to be to your mom? A lot of these
Yeah.
family is a big thing, because when you marry somebody, you're not just really marrying that person, you're really marrying their family. I know it's been said a million times, but it's a big factor in marriage. And so you need to talk about family and talk about what's important to them. How do you want to raise your children? Do you believe in corporal punishment? Do you believe in beating kids? Or do you believe in, what kind of education do you want your children to have? Do you want your kids to go to a boarding school, or do you want them to live with us the whole time? These are all like, you kind of take that category of family, and then you break it down into some of the more nitty-gritty questions, which can really help you understand whether or not you and this person are compatible, because that's what the courtship period is all about, is to determine whether or not they fit into the long-term compatibility category, or they're a short-term friendship.
Hmm.
So
All right.
family is one, and I can keep going on and on, but I don't know how much you want me to do. But if you want me to keep going, I can keep going.
All right. Okay, let me quickly chip this in, because some are of the opinion that is it really necessary to go through the courtship stage before marriage? Because some people believe that you don't need the courtship before marriage. As soon as you meet the person, you are convinced that this person is your spouse. You can as well, if you meet maybe in a month's time, you don't need to wait 6 months, 1 year courting before going into marriage. So I want you to please tell us, what is the purpose of courtship?
Wow. So you need to know somebody before, you're making the biggest decision of your life. I mean, the person who you're going to join yourself with in marriage it's a really big decision, and it's going to affect every other decision. It's going to affect every other direction of your life. So absolutely, it's important to take your time. You don't make big decisions overnight. And our life kind of goes through phases. We might be in a really good place at the time that we meet somebody, but we might have a dark side, and we need to kind of stay with that person until we get to those darker moments, and then we see how we survive through those darker moments. You know, not everybody. Let's talk about somebody that has severe mood swings. Okay, they can start off, happy, the world is great, I love you, everything's happy, and then they get married in that hyper happy stage, and then they find out later that this person also goes into deep depressions, and they go into very introspective times, and they're not as social, and they're not as friendly, and they're more moody, and you're like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for this. So one of the benefits of taking your time is that you really get to see that person in all the phases of life. You get to see them during holidays. You get to see them, when they're doing well, and you get to see them when they're not doing so well. And so it's really important to really take your time to get to know the person. Chemistry is an interesting thing. It can be a big deceiver. You can feel all this chemistry with somebody, like, wow, we just connect, and wow, my heart's beating like crazy, and I want him and I want her, and I feel like this is forever, and we all go through like this honeymoon phase in our relationships, where in the first couple of months we feel like, oh my God, this guy is fantastic. Or this girl is. And then you get past the honeymoon phase and you start seeing a bit more of reality. And I think that that's the important part of courtship is getting past those things, which can be deceiving. That honeymoon phase can be really deceiving, and getting into reality and seeing, is this really somebody who I'm compatible with long term? Not just, is this somebody who I can, chill with, or have be friends with, or, hang out. There's a big difference. So you've got to take time to get past that honeymoon phase. And I usually say that the honeymoon phase lasts about 3 months. Depending on the relationship, sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes reality hits you fast. But in a lot of relationships, if you're really not seeing each other every day, and you're just kind of, connecting on weekends and all of that, it can last like 3 months, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It's not a perfect science, but you need to get past that and kind of go through some of the hills and the valleys of real life before you take the plunge into saying forever. Because you also have to talk about that. Do you believe that marriage is forever? Do you believe, that there's a back door to this thing? And if both of you are in agreement that this marriage is going to be forever, then, oh my gosh, you've got to get it right, because forever is a long time, and you don't get two chances at forever. So, it's really important that you take your time, and you might feel like you're in love at first sight, and that's exciting, and it's beautiful, and to be embraced, and it's an enjoyable season of a relationship. But until you kind of go through real life, you won't really know if this person is truly compatible or not.
Okay. All right, ma. Okay, since the process of courtship is a process of getting to know each other better. Okay. What if you have a situation where two lovers, while getting to know each other in the courtship stage, and later maybe one of them discovered that there is a red flag, like something unpleasant about the person.
Of
Should the
course.
person should the person just withdraw, or just trash it out with his or her partner?
Well, see,
If
red
you
flags.
something not good, something unpleasant about your spouse while courting, would you advise such person to still continue or withdraw?
Okay, so let me clarify. Red flags have levels. Okay,
Mhm.
there's the glaring, blah, get out of this thing quick, red flag, and there's the, oh, this person has a bit of a character flaw. We all have character flaws. We all have areas that we need to work on. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect communicators, perfect money managers, perfect family relationship managers. None of us are perfect. So there will be character flaws. There will be red flags in every relationship, but you have to determine what are the big ones, and the big ones are the ones that are deal breakers. So I would say some big red flags. Number one would be the person's already married to somebody else. Okay, that's a big red flag. All right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they don't know, and they find out while they're dating that, oh, he's actually married. He might say he's working out the relationship, he doesn't love her anymore, or they're not together. But if they're still legally married, he's not available. That's a red flag that would say, okay, you need to close this door and move on. But there's other red flags. There's the red flag of abuse. If a woman raises her hand to hit you, or a man raises his hand to hit you, and you're not yet married, that's a glaring red flag that would tell you this is a deal breaker. This is something that is not going to serve me in my future. So there's different levels of red flags. There's also simple lower levels of red flags, like let's say the person doesn't manage their money well, and they're a consumer and not an investor. Okay. And you find out that this person, if they see something advertised on TV, or they see something advertised on Facebook or something, they have to buy it immediately. They're a gimme, 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 buy, buy, buy kind of person. That's not necessarily a deal breaker red flag. It's a red flag that would tell you, okay, I have to decide that if this person's behavior never changes in this area, can I still accept them and embrace this relationship? And I think that's how you have to categorize your red flags. If you don't get into a relationship and see these challenge areas and say, oh, she's going to change, or oh, he's going to change, because honestly, people generally don't change. We all say, oh, we're all new in Christ Jesus, or, we have all these things that we believe, but our personality types, our challenge areas, we usually deal with them over and over and over again. So you need to determine whether or not this is something that, if this thing never changes, am I okay with it? And if it is, then you can tick that one off. But if it's a big glaring red flag, like some of the ones that we mentioned, then by all means, you need to be like, I'm out. Bye. It was fun, but no. And so there's levels. So not all red flags are deal breakers. Absolutely not. Like you might find that the person has some poor habits. Maybe the person isn't a good housekeeper. That's a red flag if you're really, really into a perfect house. But it's also something that, well, you know what, if he's not a good housekeeper, or she's not a good housekeeper, maybe I can pick up that side, and I can take care of that responsibility. So there's a lot of give and take that comes in. So red flags in general are not deal breakers, depending on the level of the red flag.
Okay. Thank you so much. But there's some people that even after seeing the glaring red flag, they still go ahead in the courtship. They still go ahead. They
Yeah.
believe, yeah. Just as you said that some who are of the opinion that they will change, you change, she'll change, and at the end of the day, the person doesn't change.
Yeah.
And the
So
marriage,
let me just chip in something there. The reason why a lot of us stay even after we start seeing the red flags is because we jumped the gun on the relationship. We fell in love too fast.
hmm,
We started getting physically entangled, emotionally entangled. We started making verbal commitments to one another prematurely. And so one of the ways that you can kind of keep an open mind and be able to look at your relationship from a better perspective is to avoid those deep entanglements early. I'm in my first month of a relationship and I'm already saying, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. When you make those commitments to someone, it makes it really hard to step back and to see the big picture later, or to accept what the big picture is telling you. You might see it, but you're already in with both feet. So that's why the courtship, as we're talking earlier, that's why the courtship period is so important, because it gives you a chance that if you need to step back, you can step back. So you don't want to, for example, introduce them to your family right away. You don't want to introduce them to all your friends right away. You want to kind of take your time and build this thing, gently. Build it, kind of, I want to even say covertly, a little bit, on down low, so that, if you get into it and you're like, you know what, I really liked you, but we're not going to work. You can leave without a lot of humiliation or social stigma of an ended, courtship, and there's just so much social stigma with jumping in and out of relationships. And so I'm a big fan of kind of taking it low and taking it quiet in the beginning, so that you do have that opportunity. If either of you says, this isn't serving me or this isn't working for me, you guys can get out of it without a public humiliation or without a massive heartbreak, because if your heart is so invested before you know something, you're going to get in, you're going to have a hard time,
Yeah.
actually walking away when you see something that is just completely inappropriate for your future.
Meaning you don't have to fall too much in love before discovering those things. You need to take your time. Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
really take your time before going deeper in love. Let me use that word.
Yeah.
Okay, ma. There is something I want you to speak on. Okay, when we have people courting for a very long time, both partners are of good character and they are compatible according to them. But maybe like after 2, 3, 4 years, maybe one of them heard the voice of God that this person is not your spouse. What would you advise the person to say? How would you advise the person to react to that relationship?
But they're not yet married, right?
They're not yet married.
Oh, wonderful. If
They are
if
courting.
somebody, yeah, if somebody wants out while you're still in a courtship phase, you guys can try to talk through the issues. But if somebody wants out, by all means, open the door and let them out. Um, you know,
Issues, no issues, no issues between them. One of them, okay, one of them heard the voice of God not to go ahead in the relationship, and they had no
see,
issues. They were doing perfectly fine.
see,
So would the person break the news to the partner that this is what God is saying? I don't know what we can do.
See, I don't believe that a lot of these things of God told me are really God told me. I believe a lot of it has to do with I need out. I see what I don't like. Or maybe I found somebody else that I like more and I don't know how to break it to you. So I'm going to blame God and I'm going to say, God told me. Once a person tells you that they're out for whatever reason, if they tell you they're out because God told them, or they told you they're out because, you guys have issues of one sort or another, let them go. Don't lock anybody down. I don't care how many years you've invested in something. If something is not going to be good for you and you're not yet married, I'm talking about singles now. If something is not going to be good for you and somebody can reject you at that level, let's say you've invested 4 years or 5 years, as you said, and they're ready to tell you God said you're not the one, then by all means, if you can reject me at this level that we're dating, what are you going to do to me after we're married? I mean, please, by all means, you're free to go. And it's heartbreaking. It's hard. It's emotionally tumultuous. It'll make you cry. It'll make you feel, it'll hurt your self-esteem. You'll go through, a season of grieving that relationship and all of that. Yes. But if he wants to, or she wants to, if she wants out or he wants out, let them out. Because by the time they're telling you that they want out, they made up their mind a long time ago. So you're getting the tail end of it. But this decision had been brewing for a while. And you really don't want to marry somebody who is flippant, somebody who is, quick. They're quick in and quick out, or they've been with you this long and then all of a sudden they say they want out. That's kind of, to me, also another glaring red flag that you don't have a stability in your life. And the Bible says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And it says that we should allow our yes to be yes and our no to be no. And so if somebody wants to come at you with a no, then let their no be no. And help them with the door and say, bye-bye. Thank you. It's been real. And then don't cry in front of them. Don't beg them. Don't plead. No, don't leave me. We've got so many years. And no, don't beg them. Just say, you know what? I understand. No problem. And then block their phone. Be done. Like if you're going to close a door in a relationship, you need to close that door. Because I think what a lot of people do is they leave a lot of doors half open. And so they they say goodbye, and then they like, well, maybe if I'm lonely, I can connect with you or hook up with you just a little bit here or there. Or, if I'm lonely, I can still chat with you until 2 in the morning. And what you're doing is you're holding that person emotionally hostage. So if
Yeah.
you're not going to stay in a relationship with somebody, you need to be ready to walk away completely, so that you're freeing yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically, for maybe the next thing that God has for you. So I believe when you're closing a door, you close it all the way.
Close it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if the
completely.
person comes back with a change of heart or a change of mind, you start again. You don't pick up where you left off. You don't give them that access, because they've already broken your trust. They've already broken their promises to you. So they have a little bit of proving that they have to do. They have to regain your trust again. They have to win your heart again. They don't just get you back the next day or the next minute, both feet in, heart, soul, and body. No. If you want me back, you're going to have to win me back, because you let me go. So
Mm.
that's I think that'll help a lot of, especially ladies, because we tend to be a little more fragile emotionally and a little more available emotionally. And so when they break our hearts, we want so badly to fill that void, that we're like, okay, if he wants me back, I'll come back. Well, wait a minute, you broke my heart. Like, you actually hurt me. You embarrassed me. You made me feel insecure, all of these different things. And I need to process that and decide whether or not I actually want you back. So we don't jump back in with everything. We give it time again, just like we did at the beginning.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So can you please quickly give us the things? You can just maybe list them, the issues. There are some questions that still needs to be answered during courtship. Can you please quickly give us that?
Yeah, so we talked first about family. Second, I would say money. Money's a big one. Money
Money.
management. How are we going to deal with our money? How do you deal with money? What kind of debt ratio do you have? What's your spending habits like? Are we going to have a joint account, or are we going to have individual accounts? Is my money your money? Is your money my money? How do you perceive money? Money is a big one, and I
Yeah.
believe that conversation has to happen. Sexual compatibility is another one. You have to find out. And I'm not saying, no, I'm not telling you to have sex with the person before you're married, but I'm saying you need to find out, do you guys have a matching sex drive? Do you guys have matching beliefs about their sexual relationship? Do you believe that a sexual relationship should be exclusive? Or do you believe that we should have an open relationship where you understand that I'm a man and I like to date other women, and there's no way that you can control me? Those conversations need to be had. So I would say those are big. And then also you want to talk about where you're going to live. Very important. How much money are you going to spend on accommodation? Are you going to live with family? Are you going to live independently? Are you going to live 25,000 miles away? How is all of this going to play into our relationship? Because you might be surprised that this person is planning on relocating, let's say, to Canada, and you're very comfortable living in, let's say, Nigeria, and that's a big issue, that they want to live in a different country and raise their family in a different country. So where you're going to live is a big one. Gosh, there's so many more that you can talk about. I would say another glaring one is religion. You need to discuss it big time. You need to discuss what are your religious beliefs? What are my religious beliefs? How do we come together on those beliefs? And I believe that if a couple is not of the same religion and the same spiritual background, it makes it very hard for them, especially in raising children, and especially down the road. So you want to talk about that. Maybe the person is a Muslim and you're a Christian, or vice versa. You want to discuss their religious convictions, and then and really, as much as possible, be on the same page when it comes to religion. Very important, especially when you're raising children. There's lots of other ones, but I don't know how long this program is. So,
Okay, you can still go on. You still have a few minutes to go, like
okay.
3 2. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to talk about educational background. Um, and you want to talk about earning potential, you know, what type of education do you have? What type of earning potential do you have? What's your belief about the whole working situation? Very, very important. There's some people who believe that the wife should stay home and the man should be the sole earner of the family, or vice versa. In some cultures, the man stays home and the woman is the supporter of the family. What does this person believe about that? Are they okay when you start having children? Let's say for your woman, for example, and you start having children, do they want you to be a stay-at-home mom? These are all really important questions to discuss before you get married, because after you get married, it might create some big issues for you. There's just a lot of things that you've got to talk about. But as you open up, it's like layers of an onion. As you peel one back, you see another. As you peel one back, you see another. And that's why the courtship phase is so important, to be a phase where you're solely focusing on fact finding, not on fireworks. If you're focused on the fireworks, then you're going to find yourself, a little bit at a disadvantage when it comes time to say I do. So fact finding, not fireworks.
Hmm. Okay. So when we have two people of different faiths, should they go ahead in the relationship? Like, okay, let me take for example a Muslim and a Christian, and they are both okay. They are both of the same agreement. They both agree that okay, you practice your religion, I practice my religion. Then we go into the marriage. Is it advisable?
That can be fun while you're dating, because you're not living in the same house. You're
Yeah.
not praying at the same times. And you're usually not raising children. But once you start bringing children into the equation, a lot of things change. I mean, you're talking about baptism and catechisms, and or taking the child to the mosque, and all of these things. So I'm a firm believer that two cannot walk together unless they be agreed, as it says in the book of Amos, chapter 2, verse 2. So I believe that you shouldn't be unequally yoked together. So you're when you have the same religious background, you're starting at a place where you're able to you're in a lot better position to succeed. People that come from different religious backgrounds really have an uphill battle, and many of their relationships don't succeed long term. So that's an important conversation to have. And I'm a big believer that the two of you should be on the same page religiously before you get married. If he's Catholic, maybe you should also be of the Catholic faith. Or if he's Pentecostal, it's good for you to be Pentecostal, or you're Pentecostal, he should be, I'm not always saying that the woman is the one that should adjust, but I believe that the two of them need to come to terms so that they share their faith together, because faith is a big part of a successful relationship.
They must come to an agreement.
Yeah. And I really strongly do believe that religious compatibility is a big one. And I strongly believe that you need to know whether or not this person shares your faith and shares your commitment to your faith. Because, let's say if the man, for example, is gung-ho into his church life, and he wants to go to church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Bible study, doing this, that, and the other. And the woman's like, I wasn't really raised around that. That's not really my thing. I mean, I pray before I eat, but I'm not really like a God chaser. Then you're going to find yourself with some issues inside the marriage. So that's why the dating relationship is so beautiful, because it gives you, or the courtship is so beautiful because it gives you an opportunity to see some of these things that might be an issue later on, and you can avoid them, maybe by avoiding the person, or by talking through it, or getting counsel and therapy through it.
Good. Now, since courtship is the process of getting to know each other, is it advisable with you? What are your thoughts on couples to be staying together, not married, just because they want to get to know each other? Is it advisable to live together under the same roof, just because you want to get to know each other? You're courting. Is it advisable?
The ideal scenario is that you wouldn't be sexually involved before you get married. That's an ideal scenario, because once you start getting involved sexually, as I said earlier in the program, you lose some of the purity of the relationship. And a lot of the relationship is just physical. Once you cross a physical barrier, a physical line, you can't go back. And so, for example, once you're kissing, then every time you're together, you're kissing. Then if you're petting, every time you're together, you're petting. Or if you've involved yourself in a sexual relationship, you're always doing that. And then that's time that you take away from your real fact-finding mission. And so, living together is an interesting question, because when you live with somebody, you're already kind of combining your lives together. And so, living together, just a man and a woman, without anybody else in the house, it's kind of like you're already playing marriage and you're already playing house, and but you're not making the person make the commitment. And I find that a lot of people who live together before they're married, they find themselves in this circle or this cycle of being in a long-term, non-committed relationship, where you're kind of enjoying the benefits of marriage without having to make that commitment of marriage. So I encourage people as much as possible, not to live together before they're married. And the only time that I think it really works is when you're living together. Let's say that you're living with his family, or you're living with her family. And then your fact finding is a little deeper, because you're getting to know the ins and the outs of the family dynamics and all of that. And you're not staying in the same room. You're not, playing house with the person. That's probably one of the exceptions to those rules. But I don't believe that living together is really wise. I think that it puts you at a disadvantage, and it also makes it harder, as I said earlier, to walk away. Once you've entangled your finances, you've entangled your property, you've entangled your everyday lifestyle and routines. It makes it harder when you see some of those problem areas to walk away, because you're so entangled.
So it's so wrong. It's so wrong to live together when you are not married. You want to get to know each other. Where can you meet to get to know each other? How?
Well, yeah, I think you should go out. You should do things. He should come over. She should come over. You should get to know each other. I would say, I'm a big fan of starting off in groups, because you get to see the way the person interacts with other people. You get to see a lot about a person when you're in a group, because it's harder to pretend when you're with other people. When you're
Yes,
one-on-one, you can really put on a show, but when you're with other people, chances are some of those other people know you, and it's a little harder to put on a fake persona. So, group dating is advisable. Going places that it's not all about intimacy. Every night come to my house so we can Netflix and chill is not an ideal pattern for a successful marriage or for a successful courtship. Go places that forces conversation. Now, I'm not saying you can never watch a movie together, but if all you're doing is watching movies, then you're missing your chance to get to know the person. All you know about them is their taste in movies, and that's not going to get you anywhere in life. You can do well in a marriage if the two of you have different tastes in movies. If she's into romantic comedies and you're into action thrillers, you guys can still do totally fine in marriage. So that's not a big red flag. That's not a deal breaker. So you want to be in places where you force conversation. You want to go out to eat together. You want to go to places where you're interacting with one another, where you're able to converse without having that temptation of sexual intimacy. If you're always alone in a hotel, or you're always alone on the couch, you're gonna miss something in your opportunity to really find out about the person, and you're just gonna be jumping into to things that are gonna affect your ability to really get to know the person.
good. Thank you so much. The very last one before we go is I want to speak on the parental influence. When we have two people cutting, maybe one of them saw this glaring red flag and you're about to quit, but your parents are still of the opinion that endure, stay, don't leave the relationship. How would you cope with this? Will you listen to your parents while you go ahead in the relationship, even after seeing the glaring red flag?
Well, you have to ask yourself, what's motivating my parents to asking me to stay? What is it? Why do they want me to stay? Some parents just want their daughter married. or they just want their son married by all means. And they just have this
Yeah.
belief that once you're married, you'll just be able to stick with it and deal with whatever you get, but just get there first, you know?
Mhm.
So I think you have to look at the motivation of the parents. If the parents are advising you to stay, listen to that as well and say, why are they advising me to stay? What is it that they see that I don't see? And have those conversations with them. This is the challenge area that I saw, and this is something that I think is a big deal. So why don't you think it's a big deal? Is that what you want from me? And discuss the motivation behind them asking you to stay. If it's just maybe, let's say the guy is rich and they want their daughter to be settled well and to, be able to say, okay, here she is. Now you take care of her. Well, that might not be a good reason to stay. That might be a good reason for your parents because they want to get rid of the responsibility, but that's not a good reason for you. So you have to really look at the motive behind why they're asking you to stay. And, conversation. The more you communicate with your parents, the more you communicate with the person, the better understanding you have. So instead of just taking their advice and just saying, okay, well, dad says or mom says I need to stay, so I'm going to stay. Talk to them. Why? And once you understand why, then it can give you a better idea of what your decision should actually be, because you're the person who's going to have to live with this person for the rest of your life. They're not. They might have to live with them as an in-law, but they're not going to have to wake up every morning next to them or share their finances or share their family life or their future ambitions with the person you are. So the person has to be somebody that you're convinced is somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with, not just that your parents are convinced.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. I really wish we could go on and on and on because I still have some questions to ask, but the time is not really on our side. But before you go, Ma, what would you like to say to singles who are in courtship? What advice would you like to give to them?
Wow. Well, I think this whole conversation has been about advice to singles in courtship. So I would just summarize it with what we've said from the beginning is it's all about fact finding, not fireworks. So get to know the person, take your time, um, seek the wisdom of God. Ask the questions, ask the hard questions. Don't be afraid of losing the person because of what you're going to find out. It's better to
Yeah.
find out now than to find out later, when it's a lot harder to get disentangled. So, fact finding, have fun, enjoy the relationship, don't get overly physical, and just kind of ride the wave and see how it goes. And then if it is going towards marriage, I would encourage you to get premarital counseling. I would encourage you to get good counseling that can help you go even deeper than what you might be able to do on your own.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's really an interesting and exciting time
Thank
with
you.
Idahosa. I'm so grateful. I hope we've all learned something. Yeah, personally, I learned a lot today
Thank
that I'm
you.
going to pass on and on to my friends who are still single but cutting. Yes, you need to take your time. Take your time. Don't rush. Yes, you are in love, but you still need to take your time. Ask hard questions. Questions, don't be afraid to ask any question. It's better to have a broken courtship than a broken marriage. When you have a successful courtship, then you will have a successful marriage. So it depends on you. The ball is in your court to decide if you are going to stay with that person or not. You need to take your time to discuss extensively about your faith, about your your beliefs, about what you both want to achieve at the end of the courtship, what you the kids you want to raise together, discuss financial management, discuss lots of things. Don't hide anything, please. And I pray that God will help all our singles in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Much, Ma, I'm so grateful to have you here. God bless you mightily in Jesus' name. So right now we're calling it bye bye. Eyes of Africa TV on Peculia Youth. Join us next week for another interesting topic. My name is Tosin Adeyemi. Bye for now.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.